So let's start our today's session. Hello everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Hope you all are safe and healthy. I am Mohammed Maaz, Oracle Fusion Specialist from SOAIS, and I am joined by my colleague Meghdut Nandy, Oracle Fusion Specialist. Today we'll be discussing about approval management in Oracle Fusion SCM. So moving on to the next slide, today's agenda would be okay. So we'll be discussing about the overview of approval management. Then we'll be covering about what is approval workflow, followed by approval types, and then we will discuss about Oracle BPM Worklist and its configuration. After that, we will explain approval and notifications. We will also discuss some case studies and then benefits of approval workflow. Uh, During that, we'll also have a question and answer session. You may send your questions at any time during the presentation, and we will collect those and try best to address them. Now, moving on to the next slide. Now we will discuss about overview of the Oracle approval management. Approval management in Oracle Cloud is comprised of several components that are integrated seamlessly for delivering end-to-end approval workflow functionality. It refers to the set of rules that every organization follows to approve any process or request pertaining to a business decision. It provides a powerful, highly configurable way to monitor activity within your system where managers can define policies related to promotions, salary changes, grade changes, etc. that trigger the creation of an approval request. The approval request contains a set of approvers responsible for monitoring the condition. In some cases, the approval may only need notification of the condition. In other cases, the system might require the approver to approve or reject the request. Also, Oracle SCM Cloud Approval Management is based on human workflow to automate tasks from one user or an application to another user for actions. Fusion SCM workflows are routed in a predefined sequence to achieve an end result based on the initial configuration of the human workflow. Broadly, approval management falls under 3 points. The first one is it controls workflows for business processes such as hiring an employee or managing promotions. The second one enables you to define task routing policies that can be as simple or as complex as needed. The third one, it is fully integrated with SCM to derive approvers based on the supervisory hierarchy. Areas of responsibility such as HR or benefit representatives and other criteria such as job levels. So now let's move on to the next slide. And now we'll be discussing about approval workflow. What is approval workflow? It is a it is an automated process that passes transactions from a user or a group of users for their review or action. For example, a promotion request for a worker may require approval from two levels of the manager hierarchy above the task submitter. So, workflow human task is any workflow component that requires attention or action from managers. So, that is the human task. Somebody has to approve or review or take some actions on that. In Oracle Fusion SCM, the tasks for users come up in the work list notification and approval region. Now, in this diagram, you can see this is the high level diagram of what happens when a task submitter submits the task. Then it goes to the first approver, then it goes to the final approver. And also there will be some possibility that there could be the first approver could itself be a final approver. And then that happens, the task is approved. This is a very high level generic flow diagram of a workflow. So now we will be moving to the next slide and we will discuss about transaction flow. Okay, so now this is the typical Fusion SCM approval workflow. When the transaction is submitted, the information is routed automatically to the work list of the first level manager. If the first level manager approves the transaction, then the information is then routed automatically to the work list of the second level manager. If the second level manager approves the transaction, then the information is committed to the database table, and then this transaction will be ended after that. So depending on the access granted, either of the respective approvers may edit the transaction at any time. So now this is the flow of transaction. Now moving on to the next slide, we will discuss about approver types. Okay, so here we can see that there are different types of approver types. The first one is application role. The second one is the approval groups. Third one is the management hierarchy, under which line manager, resource manager, project manager, and region manager are there. The next one is the position hierarchy. Then representative, under which there are HR representative, benefits representative, union representative, and payroll representative. After that, there is self auto approve, user, and the last one is job level. Okay, now we will discuss on approver types. An approver type is a workflow directory services originating system that defines entities which can receive workflow notifications requesting an approval. For example, the HR application defines its set of employees as a directory services originating system. So an HR employee can be an approver. There are various types of approvers are available in approver types, as we have just discussed. So now where we can include any number of approvers in the approver sequence by dragging and dropping them into the approval workflow. Okay, now we will discuss about each different types of approver types. So the first one is the application role. If your enterprise defines duty roles for security purposes, you can enter the duty role to include it in the approval sequence. A duty role is assigned to several users. This is all about application role. The second one is the approval groups. Approval group is nothing but group of employees. When we require the approval from multiple people, then we are going to use approval group. All approval group members are notified at the same time. We can create approval groups using BPM Worklist. When defining approval sequence, we can enter the names of one or more existing approval groups. Now we'll be discussing about management hierarchy. In management hierarchy, we can set up approvals using the employee supervisory hierarchy. We can set up employee with appropriate job and supervisor such as line manager, resource manager, project manager, and the regional manager. So if your enterprise defines additional types of managers, then they appear automatically in the approvers section of the manage approval rules page. You can include them in the approval sequence. Now let's talk about position hierarchy. Position hierarchy defines positions relationship. In SCM, position hierarchy is built based on these relationships. We enable the SCM position hierarchy on the Manage Enterprise SCM information page in the Setup and Maintenance work area. If you include a position hierarchy in your approval sequence, then position holders are invited to approve the transaction. For positions with more than one position holder, the transaction is approved by the first position holder to approve. So this is what all about position hierarchy. And the next one is the representative. In representative, we can include holders of the following predefined responsibilities in approval sequence. For example, we have HR representative, benefits representative, union representative, and payroll representative. Now, we will talk about self-auto approve. What is self-auto approve? It is a rule that determines if the request can be automatically approved at the time it is submitted without action from any approver. Automatic approval occurs when an approval request transaction passes any self-auto approval rule included in the process. Now we will discuss about user. In user, we can include one or more Oracle HCM Cloud users in approval sequence by dragging and dropping them into the approval workflow. And the last one is the job level. In job level, routings are based on the manager hierarchy defined in Oracle Fusion SCM. The approval list is generated based on the starting level specified in a rule and continues until an approver with a sufficient job level is found. The approval flow uses the job level defined in the Manage Jobs interface. So now, moving on to the next slide, now I would request Meghdut to take you through the BPM worklist and other topics. Thank you. Over to you, Meghdut.
Yeah, thank you, Maaz, for taking us through such a wonderful overview of approval management in Oracle HCM Cloud. Very warm welcome to everyone. Now let's see the Oracle BPM worklist and rest of the topics. Oracle BPM worklist is a highly extensible approvals rules engine. We can design the business approval processes and enables business users to access and act on the tasks assigned to them. This is an integrated tool available in the Oracle Fusion to design and maintain the approval rules as per the business needs. For example, from a work list, a loan agent can review the loan applications or the manager can approve the employee's vacation request. The administrator can use the BPM worklist to review and to configure the approval policies for the SCM tasks using the managed task configuration for human capital management and manage approval groups task. We can use the BPM worklist to configure some approval details like when to issue the approval notification, who can access the task content, what actions are available within the approval process, and what actions are available within the approval process. There are three stages that can be mapped to an approval notification. Also, users can be notified via email, SMS, voice message, or instant message by using notification and reminder settings. Using the assignee tab, we can view and modify the approval rules associated with the transaction. Also, we define the set of rules for each route within the approval setup. An approval rule in the rule set consists of rule name, condition, list builder specific attributes, response tab, and auto action. Now moving on to the manage task configuration. So we can use the manage task configuration tasks in the setup and maintenance work area where we can configure any task. Let's take a look at the left screenshot. In the tasks to be configured pane, we can edit, reset, save, and commit any task. The outermost boxes in the diagram are stages. It is one of the building block of the human workflow. Each task has at least one stage. So it organizes the approval flows in the logical categories within the tasks. For example, within a contract approval task, there can be a one stage for contract header approval and another for the line level approval. We can have one or more stages in the sequence or in a parallel order within a task. Here we can see only one stage. Let's say the participant. So each box within a stage is a participant. We can have one or more the participants in a parallel or the sequential order within a stage. Now go to rule. Each participant has an icon that you can click to open the rule set of that same participants. Now let's look at the right screenshot, the rule set section, where you can select a rule set to work on or to create a new rule set. Each rules consist of if and then section. In the if section of the rule, we define the condition for the each rule, and each line in this section is called a test. And in the then section of the rule, we define what happens when the condition is the if section are made. So these are the basic things we need to configure of any tasks as per the business needs. Now moving on to the next slide. Now we will see the approvals and the notification. Approval notifications. So when we defining the approval workflow, we need to configure the approval actions that determine how the notifications are issued to the approvers and whether any action required from them or not. The users get notification on the home page as shown in the screenshot. We need to click on the notification icon to view a list of your recent notifications. The second one is the FIY notification. An FYI is a for your information where the participant just receives a notifications task as shown in the screenshot, and the business process doesn't wait for the participant's response. Now coming to the configured approval notifications, the approvers of the transaction can view the comments and attachment posted by the earlier approver. They can add their own comments and the attachment, but can't edit the others' comments and attachment. Any comments and attachment that they have added will be available in the notifications. We can configure the approval notification by using the page composer, either by using the design view or the source view. Now, next is the enable and disabling the workflow notification. So if you have the BPM workflow system administrator role, which is the BPM workflow admin role, you can disable or enable this notification for all the users. For example, you can disable notification during the testing to avoid sending test notification to users, and then enable the notification when it's ready. So coming to the BPM Worklist administrator options. So Oracle BPM Worklist provided different functionality based on the user profiles. Standard user profile include task assignee, supervisors, process owner, and administrator. The supervisors or the group administrator can use the worklist to analyze the task assigned to a group or route them appropriately. The administrator can configure the tasks list in several ways, including adding the worklist view, selecting the which columns to display, and displaying subset of the tasks based on the filter criteria. Now coming to the BPM worklist user views. So in this section, we are using the Oracle BPM worklist where the user can customize their list, task list by adding the required worklist views. For example, based on the filter criteria, we can display specific columns or it will be displayed to a specific assignees. So it's all about this approvals and notification. Now, coming to the next slide, workflow notifications. So as we have discussed approvals and notification, now let's take a look at the general structure of the workflow notification. So when any task is submitted for the approval request, an email notification is sent to the designated approvers. So when the task is approved, a notification is sent to the submitter. If a task is rejected, a notification is sent to the submitter and pending approvers. Additionally, if an approval request is cancelled or revised, the pending approvals will receive the notification automatically. So in general, the workflow notification contains a set of components that are displayed in a certain order. So here the callouts in this figure identify the email notification as well as the in-app notification components listed in the following. So here you can see the screenshot. The first one is the button with the primary actions to take on the task, such as approve or reject. And this is an in-app notification type. Now coming to the second one is the notification header. So which is basically listing all the key attributes of the workflow tasks and associated the transactions. And this is basically for both email and in-app notification type. Now coming to the third one, which is the buttons for the primary actions again, such as approve or reject. And this is an email notification type. Now, fourth one is the notification body that usually includes the basic information of the tasks and the line label details. And this is both email as well as in-app notification type. The fifth one is the approval history, which basically include any attachment that users in the history uploaded for any tasks. You can't edit the approval history components, which is usually appears in the body of any email notifications. And for in-app notification, you can usually view the history by clicking the actions button and selecting the history. And the last one is a link to the corresponding transaction page and link to the in-app notifications. So this is all about the workflow notification. Now we will see some few case studies. which is basically we have implemented for our client, and those can be adapted for your business purpose. So let's see the first case. Our client is Canada-based real estate company spread across Canada and US and has around 1,500 employees. So there are various modules using the SM Cloud. We have implemented the approval workflow in few modules like Oracle Recruiting Cloud, Time and Labor, and Learning and Talent module. So our first case study is the job requisition approval. So it is related to the Oracle Recruiting Cloud module. So a job requisition is a formal document that department managers use to request the hiring of the new employee. So whenever the department managers have a need for the additional workforce or replacing the existing one, they will fill out a job requisition. So a job requisition is an important part of the hiring process, especially in the companies with the HR departments who have the formal HR procedures. So in such companies, the department managers who has a need to hire more people fill out a job requisition and send to the HR department. The HR teams evaluates the needs and resource need to make a new hire, and once it gets approved from the decision maker, then it sends to the approved job requisition to the recruiter, who basically used to write the job posting. But here, our business team submitting the once the submitting the job requisition for the new headcount, it is not following the initial approval process, which is required for the audit process. To overcome this impact, business requested us for a new approval workflow for the headcount business justification. So let's see the below diagram to see in the details on how we have implemented the workflow for the new headcount job requisition. So whenever the business need to hire the new employee, the hiring manager create the new, fill the form with the details, and close the job requisition. Once the hiring manager save the requisition, the recruiter receive the FIR notification and review and enter any additional details if required, and then submits the requisition. As soon as the recruiter submit the requisition, the hiring managers, the BU owner receive the FI notifications, as well as the approval group receive the notifications. Then the approval group redirect to the line manager approval. Once the line manager approve the requisition, the recruiter receives the notification from the line manager. And then recruiter posts the position on the company career side. So this is the flow how we have implemented. Now in the next slide, let us see how this job requisition approval have been configured in the BPM worklist. So as we can see in the left image, we have selected the job requisition approval human tasks, which we need to configure for this case. So in the second image, we have added a screenshot of how we have added the new rule under the job requisition approval human tasks for the headcount job business justification. So it's all about this for the case study one. Now let's move on to the next case study, which is the time card approval. So this particular case study is basically related to the time and labor module that we have worked earlier for our business team. So the issue that business team was faced when an employee submitted a time card for approval, the workflow should take it to the employee manager for approval. But here the BPM workflow not recurring to the approving managers, and the employee received a system email stating that the payroll time card approval is failed. So here is an error, and also employee the manager not received any time card approval email. So to overcome this issue, we have done some configuration in the worklist, in the BPM worklist, and after that, it will work fine. So it is some screenshot that I have taken from the system. How we have basically configured whatever we have made in the BP worklist to resolve this particular issue. So now let's move on to the next slide. Now we would like to highlight few benefits of Oracle approval workflow. The first one is the minimize HR overhead. So work smarter, not harder is the idea contained in the Oracle Fusion HCM approval workflow. By simplifying the complex process involved in the approval management, the HCM approval workflow reduces the administrative burden on human resource executives and the managers, and it boosting the overall HR productivity and the efficiency. So in this case, only the final approval approval is required from the HR, executives, and the managers. The next one is the automated task. Once the task is initiated, the automatically kickstart the workflow. The human intervention or the logic is not required to create the approval hierarchies. The next one is the easy email notifications. So apart from the notification on Fusion SCM, the manager receives the notifications via email so they can take the quick action without having to log into the Oracle Fusion environment. The next is the increased flexibility. The HR personnel with the supervisory admin role can view, modify, suspend, and withdraw tasks at any time if required. The next one is the status tracking. The assigning the right security roles enables the privileged users to track changes. The footprints of all the active and inactive tasks can be traced in the business process management workspace. Next one is the vacation settings. So it's no fun if your urgent response is required while you are on a holiday. So activating the vacation mode automatically delegates or reassign your tasks to the person in charge. So coming to the next one is the emergency handling. Sometimes a submitted change need to be corrected or the cancelled before it is approved. We assign the super users for such emergencies with their security privileges. Super users can modify, suspend, or withdraw active tasks as well as the add or remove the approvers if required. The last one is the setting deadlines. Some approvals require a quick response. The workflow's internal alarm clock we set up reminds the approvers of approaching the deadlines through the periodic notifications. Now let's move on to the next slide. Now I will take a couple of minutes to introduce SOAIS and also provide an overview of what we do. SOAIS is an ERP consulting organization which was founded on 2006, and we have a full spectrum technology in PeopleSoft, Oracle Cloud, SaaS and PaaS, Workday, Worksoft, and RPA with over 200 employees worldwide. We have global offices located in Chicago in US, Bangalore and Kolkata in India. We have more than 50 satisfied customers worldwide, and we are proud Oracle partners since inception. Now let's move on to the next slide. We have come to the conclusion of the session. For any questions or queries or any other Oracle products, you can always reach out to us. And also you can get in touch with us via Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, or you can also drop us a note to contact us at sois.com. Also, if you have any questions on the topic covered in this webinar, please contact us through any of the connects on the slide, and we will surely get back to you. Now we will start answering some of the questions shared with us over the chat window. Just a reminder, please be sure to type in your questions in the questions panel. And meanwhile, on behalf of SWICE, thank you, everyone. We appreciate all of you being here. So now we will take some few questions. So hi audience. So if you have any questions, please raise your questions and we are able to answer all of them or if required. Yeah, so our first question is from Navjot Dewitt. So his question is, you mentioned a vacation settings for approvals. How do the system recognize that the approvals is on vacation? Is approval management linked to the absence module in the ACM? Okay, okay. So, hi Navjot, I got your questions. Yes, there is some settings we can configure. Like for example, if you want to make vacations for any particular task, so first of all, you have to go to the task to be configured pane. Then you have to search the particular the tasks on which you want to make these settings. You want to make these settings. Then once you click on the tasks, there is a settings where we can configure the vacations. Like for example, if an employee he will be going for vacation for 2 days or 3 days or for 1 week, then in that settings we have given the we have to give the time durations. Okay, for a time once you have given the time durations, for example, then once the task is once whenever the task is assigned to that particular it goes to when a particular task is assigned to a particular user, that time the whoever the submit the transaction, he will receive the notifications by email that mentioning that that particular users is not available, he's on vacation, and something like that. So you can also configure some messages and all. So this is the how we can give configure any vacation settings for any particular task. It is not related to absence module and SCM. We can do that by configuring that for any particular task. It is basically related to the any task. It is not related to any approval management and the absence module and all. Yes, that's now the second questions. Now let's quickly move on to the next questions that I got from the Devdeep Basu. He's basically asking, can we send the email notifications for pending approvals? How to configure the same? Yeah, so Devdeep, you have asking, can we send the email notification for pending approvals? No, actually, whenever the any tax is submitted, whoever the submitter is create the transaction, if the any approvers reject that transaction, or any if the first level manager he requires some additional details, then he can give it to the submitter, and there is an options called where the first level approval can if the first level manager requires some additional informations, or if we need that this tax is not going to work, then he can reject that tax. Once the tax is reject, then automatically the pending approval also get some notifications that this approvals is need some additional informations. So yes, we can yes, the pending approvals get the email notifications. So we see there are a few more questions are coming in, but due to the time constraint of this presentation, we will be right back to individually to all of your questions. But as of now, as we already have your email ID, so so we will get back to you individually to all of your questions, and we'll try to give your response with the proper details by email. So thanks again for joining us today webinar, and we will see you the next time for the next webinar. Have a great day. Thank you.